I've done what they do. I've hated on people. I definitely did when I was younger. It's just not smart. It's not a good strategy for life.
Well,
Super
we know
unhealthy
people
for you.
our age who are still doing that.
Of course.
Comics.
Marc Maron, don't say it.
I mean, I don't get it. I'm like, I don't know.
I get it. He's sad. He's sad. He wants other people to hurt. That's what it is.
It's just not charitable. It's
also he's pathologically jealous. Like he's like literally mentally ill.
Funny and Tall Top 50 comedy assassin Joe Rogan has finally responded to the latest wave of hate from Marc Maron. The two have been in this weird on-again, off-again feud for nearly 20 years, making up once upon a time to where Maron even appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience, though that was almost 2,000 episodes ago. This time around, Maron's been doing a podcast circuit, taking shots at Rogan and his crew, accusing them of ruining comedy, being duped by political powers, and most of all, just being straight-up hacks.
The thing with Joe is I don't know that we have a lot to talk about because of my idea of what he's done to comedy.
Sure.
And I don't think it's great. I think that it's tribalized, and I think that, he's created a sort of army of people that think they know comedy, but they only know a specific thing, and what they think is good is not necessarily good. It may be what they're...
And, Rogan and Hinchcliffe and... just a lot of these people just locked into this anti-woke thing. But now, the government, which is for all practical, good intents and purposes, is an authoritarian government. And we have a fairly dominant fascistic culture.
Tony, what's going on? Do you not like Marc Maron? Does he not like you? What was that? What was that all about?
Whoa, just dropping a big one there. I mean...
Is there a beef with you and Marc Maron?
I mean, I don't ever acknowledge these guys, these mentally ill people, when they, go online and start talking about me and my friends.
Tony Hinchcliffe, who he's saying uses profanity or just shock value comedy. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, at this point, it's lazy and sloppy and hackneyed.
Maron seems to feel like a lot of true comedy fans. He's disappointed that Rogan has basically become the gatekeeper of stand-up, deciding who blows up based on who gets the golden ticket to appear on his podcast. And when it comes to politics, Maron's frustrated that Rogan and Hinchcliffe couldn't see the play, that the administration used free speech as bait, knowing it was the one thing comedians would rally around. But after Maron kept taking shots, Rogan finally fired back, saying that Maron's outrage isn't really about free speech or comedy integrity. It's about jealousy. According to Rogan, Maron has a history of turning on people the moment they become more successful than him.
Like, do you understand, Mark, when he first started, when he was just first coming up, was friends with Mitch Hedberg, and then Mitch Hedberg hit, and he couldn't be friends with him anymore.
Really?
Yep. Stop being his friend. Same thing with Louis C.K. Louis C.K. and him were tight. Louis blew up, Mark didn't. He had to fucking hate him, and he turned on him. Talked shit about him openly. And then he became successful. And the years where Mark was successful were the best years of Mark, because Mark was fun. Mm-hmm. Like, I've had ups and downs with Mark. I've gone through this with him like 3 or 4 different times, where he gets upset at me, and then we talk, and then, are we good? We're good. Like, he likes to do that. He likes to talk shit about you, and then you confront him, and he says, you're right. And with me, my relationship with him was really complicated, because when I was an open micer, I was 21 years old, and I was just starting out. Mark gave me a compliment once that really helped me. He came up to me and he goes, hey, man, you're really funny. He says, keep doing what you're doing. Don't listen to anybody else. Just keep doing what you're doing. I was like, wow, thank you.
That's his best side. That's the good side.
It is not all bad.
No.
And he was a young guy back then, right? So he was just being cool. And then over time, obviously I became more famous than him and more successful than him. And he does not like that. He fucking hates that. And the only time we were cool was when Mark was number 1.
Back in the early 2010s, Mark was about as big as you could get in comedy. His podcast was massive, and he even had his own show on IFC. Rogan said Mark was cool with him and everyone else back then, but only because he was on top. According to Joe, Mark's insecurity was masked by success. When he was winning, he would play nice. But then around 2015 and 2016, Rogan's podcast really started to take off. Rogan says that's when Mark first started being shady. They eventually made up, and Mark even came on Rogan's podcast. But things went south again once Joe signed the Spotify deal and officially became the biggest podcaster in the world. So Joe thinks Mark's renewed beef around that time wasn't really about the lockdown or politics. To him, it's always been a jealousy thing.
So Mark, the podcast took off, and you got to realize it took off when he was deep into his 40s, right? And it was the #1 podcast in the country. And he was on Rolling Stone magazine, and he had his own show on IFC, the Maron Show, and he was fucking great. He was cool to hang with. He was fun because he didn't have to compare himself to anybody anymore because he was a success. Like, he could look at his own success. He was doing a television show. He had his podcast. Everything was great. And we were cool. Like, we were friends. Like, I'd see him, I'd give him a hug, I'd say, what's going on? We would talk. We're friendly at the store. We never hung out off site, but we were friendly. Like, we had pushed all the beef aside, and he even did my podcast. We had a great time. And then I started getting more successful. And then my podcast passed his. Then my podcast became #1. And then the Spotify deal. And that's when he started talking shit about me. So he started talking shit about me long before all this Trump stuff. This Trump stuff is just the most recent iteration of this bizarre thing that he does with people. And the first thing was he had decided that I was an asshole, like, just because the podcast took off. But it was not a big deal. It was like I'd heard people say that he was saying things. But then after the Spotify deal was a real problem. And that's when he started coming after me.
So yeah, Rogan doesn't really address any of Marc's actual criticisms. He just writes him off as a jealous guy. I don't think he really comprehends the criticisms. The truth is, a lot of comedy fans share Maron's opinion. The Rogan influence has lowered the bar for what gets promoted as stand-up. He's built this ecosystem that rewards hack over substance. And while doing that, he doesn't seem to realize he's being used as a kind of useful idiot for the current administration. Maron's beefs are actually valid, but Joe just keeps hammering the same point. That Marc is bitter, jealous, and self-righteous. Dr. Callan even tried psychoanalyzing it, saying Marc doesn't really hate Joe. He just sees him as the masculine bully he never dealt with growing up. So it's not about comedy or politics to him, it's personal.
You're talking about introspection. He doesn't have that. That's not him. He does when confronted, and he'll apologize. Like, that's his whole thing. Are we good? We good? And then you hug it out with people. He also lies. Like, one of the things he lied about, he did a podcast with Howie Mandel, and Howie Mandel asked him if he had problems with comedians. Like, no, I don't have any problems with any comedians. I've never had any problems with comedians. Like, what are you talking about? He's had a problem with every single comedian that's more successful than him. Bill Burr, Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle, me, Tony Hinchcliffe, everybody that passes him, all of a sudden he talks about them on stage. And the Theo thing really drove me nuts, because that sent Theo into a real spiral.
The joke Joe's referring to, the one that supposedly upset Theo, was this.
I think if Hitler were alive today, he'd probably appear on Theo Vaughn's podcast. And Theo would be like, "See, y'all did a lot of meth, right? That shit'll make you crazy, dog."
I actually think that's a hilarious joke, summing up how Theo gave Trump a platform and how he ended up humanizing him with the simplest, most surface-level humor instead of pressing him. But honestly, I don't think Maron's joke upset Theo as much as Theo upset himself. He's probably wrestling with the realization that the guys he helped platform, and he did it before anyone else, totally duped him. They used his podcast as a vehicle and he didn't see it coming. Maron's frustration makes sense in that he's not mad they talked to politicians, he's mad they didn't recognize the responsibility that comes with having platforms that massive. Instead of keeping politicians in check, they basically gave them free PR. But Joe, of course, doesn't touch that point. He just says Maron's podcast sucks.
Yeah, well, Theo went into a spiral, and that was a big part of him getting attacked, was Maron talking about him on his special, saying that he'd have Hitler on his podcast. Well, why is he saying that? Does he think that's true? Does he think that Theo has anybody on his fucking show, including Bernie Sanders?
He's learning. He wants to learn.
He'll talk to people, and he will talk to anybody on his podcast. That's not what the thing is. The thing is that Maron's podcast, which was #1, isn't even in the top 100 anymore. I don't even think it's in the top 200. It went away. And it went away not because he did anything. He didn't get arrested. There was no scandal. People just stopped being interested in it. And I think that hurts the most. And
why did they stop being interested?
It's not good. Here's a part of it. Like, the conversations that he has are fine. But the beginning of the podcast is these, like, self-indulgent rants about life and him doing things. And there's a thread dedicated on, like, Reddit where people fast forward to the time, like, they give you the time stamp of when he's done ranting, so you can just get to the interview because nobody wants to hear it. Like, it's an inside joke.
It's hilarious that Joe even looks at Reddit threads about Maron. Like, you're just as obsessed with him as he is with you. Professor M.D. Brian Callen, of course, chimed in with his trademark psychoanalysis, saying Maron has this pattern where every time one of his peers surpasses him, he blames the culture that made them famous instead of just admitting they beat him at his own game.
Sometimes there's a thing that people do when you're older where you say that person passed me and then you criticize the culture that got them past you, right?
Well, the thing is that Maron never developed an audience for his comedy, and he always felt like he deserved it. And that's what drove him the most nuts. He always felt like he deserved it. But it's like, you deserve what you get. You know what he has a record for? One of those ticket things, whether it's Ticketmaster or whatever one. Number one for selling single seats.
That's interesting.
That's not good.
Oh, that's really interesting. So
people with no friends.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
Sad people. Sad people that identify with the way he behaves.
It's probably not a good idea for Joe to go after Maron's fans, because even if Maron isn't as big as he was 15 years ago, a lot of people still agree with his takes on the Rogan sphere and modern comedy. But instead, Joe dismisses it all by saying Maron doesn't really have fans anymore, and that his whole act is just an angry rant. Which is funny coming from Rogan, because he idolizes Sam Kinison, whose entire act was an angry rant. And Joe even tries to imitate that same energy in his own quote-unquote comedy. Joe keeps circling back to the same point, though, that Maron's just a jealous, self-righteous guy pretending his hate comes from a noble place, when really he just wants attention.
If you're funny, you can get an audience.
Yeah.
And there's Jim Brewer's audience, and then there's Nate Bargatze's audience, and there's Kevin Hart's audience, and you can get an audience. Like, you just have to put your work out there and people resonate with your work. And you might not like these guys. You might say, this guy sucks or that guy sucks and I like this guy. No, it's fine. You're allowed to have personal taste, just like there's personal taste in music that I don't like. But the proof is in the pudding. Do people come to see you? Do you put asses in seats? Do they enjoy the time? Or is it an angry bomb where you're on stage ranting about other comedians? Well, that's Maron. And he does that all the time. The root of it all is not real. It's not that he cares so much that he wants everyone to do the right thing. That's not it. He's upset that all these people are getting attention. He's upset that it's very childish. But he'll make it look like, he's the righteous side, the left, the progressives. He's the voice now, and he's going to fucking, we got work to do. We got to get these fascists out. No, it's about him getting more attention. That's what it ultimately is all about. And that's unfortunate. And I'm not mad at him. And if I saw him and I talked to him, we were cool, I'd give him a hug.
You're just
but
being
he
honest.
Wants to
You're
pretend.
being just honest.
Right, but he wants to pretend that everybody else is bad and mean. And this is like the reason why they're successful, or that they're hacks.
That's all I got.
You need that